progressive is mentioned on The View, Whoopi Goldberg decides to act an entire fool, and I really can't explain it. But that is what we are going to be talking about today on our live stream segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. Thanks for stopping by. So, before we get started, in case you did not know, I know a lot of you have already contributed, and I greatly appreciate it. But we have started a GoFundMe to upgrade my studio equipment. The reason why is because the election season is coming up, and the truth of the matter is I can't go cover rallies with a webcam. Doesn't really work like that. Can't travel with a webcam. So I wanted to get a new camera, a new computer with a faster processor so we can get videos out quicker and have higher quality live streams, and get 2 wireless microphones for in-person interviews, interview people at presidential rallies, political events. I'm going to Politicon next week, or not next week, excuse me, next month. Definitely want to do a lot of interviews there. I'm really excited about that. And so if you want to contribute, or if you feel compelled to, you can go to the link in the description below, and it'll also be pinned to the top of the comments section. We hit $1,100 within 24 hours, which is kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting that. So I'm really humbled by that support. But if you do want to contribute, we're only $400 away from our original goal. And so I would greatly appreciate any help on that front. And once again, thank you to you all for constantly helping us stay independent. Like, I cannot stress enough how appreciative I am. So, Whoopi Goldberg, sellout seems to be an understatement when we're talking about Whoopi Goldberg, right? Basically, since the 2016 election, Whoopi Goldberg has seemingly had it out for Bernie. I honestly don't understand what her issue is with him, and it seems at this point that it's almost personal. But nonetheless, Whoopi never fails to make a fool of herself whenever Bernie Sanders' name is involved. And this time, she just happened to make a fool of herself in front of Bernie, with Bernie looking at her like, once again, like she's lost her whole damn mind. So let's check out this clip really quick from Bernie's recent interview on The View.
Can I ask a question? Andrew Yang was here and made perfect sense to me. And I haven't heard really anybody else in the party, whatever party we're talking about, say, hey, do you realize that if Facebook and Amazon and all the other gigantic corporations paid any tax, we could find some relief for regular Americans?
Sure.
Do you agree with that?
Of course I do. I've been talking about that for years.
Well, no, I haven't. When Andrew came on and sort of broke it down, what he suggested, and I'm sure you know this because you've been spending time with him, but his idea was, if one of those companies gave every American $1,000, people's lives would change. What do you think of such an idea?
But this is what I think.
Oh.
Bruh, what just happened? Andrew Yang came on and said some things that I really agree with. That made a lot of sense to me. Bernie, did you know that if corporations paid their fair share, something like, I don't know, maybe the top 1/10 of 1% of earners and in that category, generally, if they paid their fair share, we have a lot more revenue to go around to the general public, right? We would be able to recover our middle class. And it's just so sad to me that nobody else in the party has ever said anything like this, Bernie. What do you think about that? What do you think about this brilliant idea that started when Andrew Yang came on this show? And what's even worse about her assessment is that she says, I'm sure you know about this, not because this is literally what he has been fighting for the last 20 years, which is corporate accountability and domestic policy. She says, I'm sure you know about this because you've been hanging out with Yang. Bruh. Let's continue. Let's continue.
Okay.
I think that right now, when you have Donald Trump and his friends giving well over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large profitable corporations, I think that's obscene.
Right, but will you change that?
Of course I'll change it.
Well, how do I know this?
Because I've been talking about it for 25 years.
Well, you haven't.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Bruh. Y'all know I have my critiques about all candidates, and I do have my critiques of Bernie. My critiques of Bernie have literally nothing to do with his domestic policy. His domestic policy, and oftentimes, is extremely realistic, commonsensical, and as far as his ability to connect real life problems to his policy, right? Like while you're crafting a policy, to understand what people are going through, the day-to-day grind, and then legislating based off of that rather than legislating based off of these corporate lobby. Corporate lobbyists generally write legislation, in case you don't know, like literally write the legislation. My criticism of Bernie has nothing to do with domestic policy. It's a lot to do with foreign policy, nothing to do with domestic policy. That's the reason that he has such a cult following, is because his domestic policy is generally so good, and he's been that consistent on domestic policy for so long that people just, which is not a good thing, by the way. That's a different conversation for a different day. But it's people just literally don't give a shit about how bad his his foreign policy has been. That is literally how good his domestic policy has been. It is on the forefront of every conversation. 90% of the time, that is what Bernie Sanders is talking about. 90% of the time, that is what his supporters are talking about. 90% of the time, if he goes on a television show, he is talking about the top 1/10 of 1%. And like he said, as far as him being a senator and a congressman, he's been talking about it for the last 25 years. What the hell do you mean? How do you know this is what he wants? Why do you think that Yang feels so confident saying something like that right now, and still feeling like he's a viable candidate to win? Why do you think Yang came up with the bright idea to not take corporate PAC money or lobbying money? Do you think that Yang came up with that idea all on his lonesome? No, Yang will tell you. He voted for Bernie in 2016. He was a supporter of Bernie in 2016. One of the reasons that Yang feels so confident about his run now is because he is trying his hardest to be damn near as close to Bernie as he possibly can be. He's not Bernie, but he tries to emulate that same type of energy, that outsider energy. And then Whoopi has the unadulterated gall to ask Bernie, how do I know that you're going to talk? Whoopi, this isn't even the first time Bernie's been on your show, dog. It's not even the first time Bernie's been on your show. And this isn't the first time he's talked about this particular issue on the show. So it makes me question, like, when he gets on the show, do you even listen to literally anything that has come out of that man's mouth? Anything whatsoever. The fact that you brought this up in the it'd be one thing if you're just like, man, I just can't remember. I know somebody brought this up and I thought this was I saw it on Twitter. No, you're like, in the context of another candidate speaking about this particular issue regarding corporate tax or corporate tax accountability, I should say. Like, you bring up another presidential candidate who based a lot of his platform off of a movement and a conversation Bernie Sanders started. That is, oh my God. I can't deal with Whoopi, bruh. I really cannot deal with this woman. She is such a cancer to political discourse. I don't know why they keep bringing her on when good candidates, or any candidate for that matter, comes on The View. I seriously don't know why. And by the way, shout out to, I want to say it was Joy. I think it was Joy Behar who said he has been talking about this. And then she's like, not to me. What do you mean not to you? It's either he's been talking about it or he hasn't. He has. Come on, bruh.
Not for me. Not like this.
Not like
It's
this.
a little different.
Really?
What you
It's a
got
little.
right
How is it a little different? It's not. It's literally the same thing. But whatever.
now, Whoopi, this is what you got. You got Amazon, owned by the wealthiest guy in America, made over $10 billion in profit last year. Do you know what they paid in federal income tax?
Nothing.
Not a penny.
Yeah, I know.
That's insane.
I know. So what I'm asking you is it's your position that these corporations, all of these big corporations will now, if you're elected president,
Bruh.
one of the things you're going to make sure that they do is they pay their fair share, and that will trickle to the American people.
That's at the very top of my agenda. Absolutely.
that's his-
Absolutely.
I gotta commend Bernie there. I really do, because she asked that question, and his face, you could tell he was like, "Whoopi, I know you did not just ask me that." Like, I don't even it's if you ever heard Bernie's name, and like you may know him casually as a political fan, like the first thing you think of is like quotes like the top 0.1%, you know. The reason that a lot of us know that Amazon, or Jeff Bezos specifically, paid zero in taxes was because of that tweet about 2 years ago that Bernie put out saying Amazon didn't pay any money in taxes. And then subsequently, he started challenging Amazon consistently and regularly to the point where he ends up passing that the Bezos Act in the House and in the Senate to get Amazon workers paid, I want to say it's $12 to $15 an hour. Like, they went on basically a Twitter war. Bernie and Jeff Bezos had Twitter beef for a good year. And you got the nerve to come up, Bernie, did you know that Amazon didn't pay any money in tax? Come on. I know that, look, and it's funny because I know Meghan McCain doesn't like Bernie. I know that, what's that woman? I can't remember her name. Anna Navarro doesn't like Bernie. I know that. The other woman doesn't really like, well, she's more establishment leaning. I haven't heard her say anything negative about Bernie. But like, I know that all of them at some point looked at Whoopi and was like, Whoopi, don't you dare embarrass us like this again. Like, we can't even adequately and righteously attack Bernie like we normally like to do because you got us in here looking foolish. Like, we don't know his damn platform. We don't want him to start making us pay our fair share in taxes. That's the whole point. You done messed up our attack. You come in here trying to attack him with his damn platform. How are you going to try to attack the man from the left using his platform? That's the first time I've ever seen Whoopi try and attack someone from the left, first of all. And then when she tries to attack, you pick the right one to try and attack from the left, Whoopi. You pick the man whose platform you're using to attack. What's your weapon of choice to attack Bernie? Bernie's platform. What else would I choose? Bruh, come on. Come on, Whoop.
No, I don't really know because, I've watched you over the last several years and I've had lots of questions about what you want to do. So
Yang's also talking about giving every American money.
Yes.
All right, but I'm talking about giving every American a job, which I think is terribly important. We have an enormous amount of work to be done.
I think we should do both
in this country,
by the way,
in terms of climate change to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel. We're talking about creating up to 20 million good-paying jobs.
Yeah.
We're talking about rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Mm-hmm. We're talking about building the millions of units of affordable housing that this country
everybody says that, Bernie.
No.
Everybody says.
Oh my God.
With all due respect, I think the agenda that I am bringing forth is the most progressive agenda ever brought forth by any candidate, serious candidate running for president of the United States.
Can I?
Bruh. Bernie, everybody is saying that. Everybody is saying what you've been saying for 25 years. How do we know that you're going to be the one to do it? Why didn't you say that to Yang when he said what Bernie tweeted and everybody? It became a trending topic because Bernie's campaign and our revolution made it a trending topic as far as Amazon not paying anything in taxes. Why didn't you say that to Yang then? Because you didn't say that to him. But now it's, how do I know you're going to do it, Bernie? Now, with all due respect to Bernie, I don't believe that his platform is the most progressive overall. I think it is the most progressive domestically, but Bernie does not substantively address climate change. Or excuse me, not climate change. I lied. That was wrong. Election integrity, not climate change. His climate change policy is good. I would like to see it in a bill form, though. You know, and that's one of my complaints about his Green New Deal proposal is the fact that he is generally pretty consistent on climate change, and yet within the last 3 to 4 years, he hadn't had a bill, and that's why I don't think it's like, I think it's second to Tulsi, but Tulsi's the person I endorse because her domestic policy is tied to foreign policy. So like, that's just how I feel about that. Now, does that take away from Bernie and his point here? No, not at all. Whoopi sounds like a moron. She does. I don't even know, like, if you're Bernie, he handled that the best possible way you can handle it. I don't know how else you could have handled that. He handled that the best possible way you can handle that situation. With, like, I couldn't imagine. Well, no, I've had that happen to me where someone, for example, is talking to me about the DNC fraud lawsuit and what the findings were and where we're at in the process and, you know, how it came to be. And I've had that happen where someone's preaching, you should research the DNC fraud lawsuit because clearly you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, really? Really? Well, you tell me more about my lawsuit. And I would love to be educated from your very limited perspective of whatever you've contorted the idea of the lawsuit to be. I would love to know what it's about because it's not like I created it or anything like that. Bruh. Like, so I from Bernie's perspective, I gotta give him a hand clap on that one because you handled that one like a champ. Let's see if Whoopi has anything else idiotic to say before we finish this up.
But now, okay, you want to ask a question? I just want to ask something on that point because Nancy Pelosi is now saying that the moderate is the one that basically is the most elected.
Well, I love Nancy, but she and I disagree on this issue. I think the way you beat Donald Trump, and I must say that in my view, Donald Trump is the most dangerous president probably in the history of this country.
We agree.
I actually don't agree with that point. Believe it or not. I know it sounds crazy. Donald Trump may be a bad president, but Truman definitely dropped 2 atomic bombs on a whole country. So, yeah. And initiated the Cold War because he didn't want to acknowledge the Yalta Conference. So, I would put the guy who dropped nuclear bombs ahead of Trump, who actually stopped World War III. So, I mean, if we're going to be honest, you know, I don't like the guy, but I don't like the hyperbole. Let's stick to the facts. Let's stick to the fact that you are a better candidate, and you're far and away a better candidate, and that's what we should be sticking to. If you're going to talk about Trump, don't use hyperbole. Don't use sensationalism. His policies are bad enough. He's a puppet of the D-state. Talk about that. His foreign policy is lackluster. He constantly tries to initiate regime change war, like in proxy wars and economic warfare on countries and politicians who don't deserve it. Like, let's stick to that. Let's not call him the most dangerous politician in history because it is actually not true. So, but what Joy said, what did she say? Oh, I just forgot what she said. Whatever. I'll remember in a second.
And it gives me no pleasure to say this. It really does not, because I have conservative friends who I like and respect. But Trump
Can I hear any in Congress or the Senate? I'm generally curious about bipartisanship. Can you name one?
Johnny Eisen.
All right, so I'm not about to listen to Meghan McCain. Thanks for this. Thanks. Remember when Joy Behar read off that list when Tulsi went on recently? What, maybe a month ago? And she said, "Yeah, Tulsi, all that sounds well and good. Fake. It's so fake. It's so fake. You know damn well what Bernie stands for. Every single candidate deserves to be lauded when they are when personalities like this who are not doing justice to policies, they're breaking down and denigrating the best candidates for the job, and then when they're not breaking down and denigrating the best candidates for the job, they're lying about how good other candidates are. And if they're not doing that, or if these particular corporatists aren't doing that, then we'd be having to deal with the issue of inevitable election fraud and no one wanting to talk about it. And yet, once again, I got to spend time like educating the masses on things like this. I talk about election fraud, of course, but election fraud and election integrity, it's taboo. Yeah, I mean, it's cool to dunk on these dumbasses. It's fun. It's cool. But like with the combination of this, like the like I said, I Trump is a dangerous president, but he's no more dangerous than any other neocon. So why don't we talk about the policies? It's the most dangerous president in history. Come on, bro. Now this legislature is absolutely the most dangerous legislature. That the Republican-dominated legislature is not. They're not the worst in history because they're Republican. They're the worst in history because it damn near became a Tea Party legislature. Because when you have a Republican-dominated administration and a Republican-dominated Supreme Court and a Republican-dominated Senate, what's the best way to, like, the worst possible thing to add to that is the fact that you have a bunch of neocon Democrats willing to push your policies through. Now, if you would have said that about the legislature, who was always looking for a reason to go to war, always authorizing illegitimate bombings of any country that our corporate fascist elitist leaders see fit, like I would agree with that. But I don't like the hyperbole. I don't like the sensationalism. Like, if you want to sensationalize, let's talk about the fact that election integrity is non-existent in this country. Let's talk about the fact that foreign policy is abysmal, and if you call it out, then you're attacked for it. Let's talk about our intelligence community. Let's talk about, the fact that Kamala, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden, well, not Biden, Biden isn't even trying, but, Beto O'Rourke and Pete Buttigieg can pretend like they're progressive and get propped up, and then the real progressives get suppressed while their platforms are, used and stapled to other candidates. Let's talk about that, and that should be sensationalized because it changes the conversation going forward, but only in a nominal way and not in a substantive way. So those are things that we should be talking about. But I'm worried for this country, for this election, because it's just, the people who have the largest following and the people who have that have the ability to control and navigate the conversation, I feel like they're just not doing it responsibly. And even a lot of our politicians, a lot of our progressive politicians, they've been dropping the ball. And when we got people like Whoopi at the helm of the mainstream conversation, man, but we're going to keep on trucking. We're going to keep on trudging. All right. So thank you all so much. Like I said, if you have not yet, please contribute to our GoFundMe. The link is in the description. We're trying to upgrade our camera, computer, and get some wireless microphones and some better lighting so that we can take this show on the road come 2020, where we're going to have a bunch of campaign rallies. You got, people waiting in line to vote who are undoubtedly going to have their registrations purged. Let's be honest. And I want to be there to cover it all for you. And every other time we've been able to get on the road, it's because we've had other people donate equipment to us, which is awesome. But like, I would rather our ability to report on from the ground not be reliant upon other people, but having the equipment in house. So all we have to do is pick up and go. We raised $1,100 in the first 24 hours. You all are dope. I greatly appreciate it. So we're only $400 off of our original goal. And so if you feel compelled to donate, please do. Other than that, always remember, more than anything else, people, find your balance.